Okay, this is Chairman Mike McCoo of the Wilmington Finance calling to order the budget meeting of February 10th, 2022 at 7:05 p.m. First order of business, seating of alternates. Christina is out. She had asked me to seat Lisa in her place, but Lisa is not here. So I'll enter a motion to seat Jim for Christina.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, I'm just gonna do it right. I'll do a roll call. Sorry. Jeff.
Yes.
Joe.
Yes.
Stephanie.
Yes.
Pete.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Motion passes. All right, Joe, you're on board. I mean,
Okay.
Sorry.
I'm on board.
Thank you. Okay. We do not have, I'm gonna hold off on approval of the minutes since we got them by email today. So as long as it's okay with the rest of the group, I'm gonna move to present to speak. So public participation is desired and encouraged. Speakers will be time and appropriateness of comments to maintain progress, stay on topic, and maintain. So having said all that, if anyone is in, I see Jim Buick.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, that's my sound check. As you know, I attended the last town meeting we had and spoke out against the formation of the American Rescue Plan Act Commission to make spending appropriation decisions. It was my opinion, I made arguments at that point in time, that that's the Board of Finance's responsibility. So I would strongly urge the Board of Finance to take that role back. I believe you should be making these decisions about appropriations. I believe this commission should be advising you on priorities or what needs to get done where. That seems like a very reasonable thing to do, but I think the actual appropriations, I believe, should be made by the Board of Finance. Again, Jim Bulick, Laurel Drive. Thank you.
Thank you. Other members of the public, if you're in video and you'd like to speak, Pete Latinchich.
Peter Latinchich, 97 Trask Road. I too would like to comment on the Arpa Commission and ask the Board of Finance to exercise their traditional role in approving any appropriation that may be recommended by the Arpa Committee, and followed by our normal practice of town meeting approval. I think that's important. It's important to the townspeople, and I urge you to just do what you always do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. For members of the public who are present to speak, if you have video and you would like to, open up your camera and wave. If not, your sound and call out your name. All right. Lisa, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, we had placed Jim on. I have a request from Christina to seat you in her place. So I'm not sure what the correct procedural thing is to do. Not sure if anyone else has any advice, has had this before.
I mean, you see an alternate and then you move on. I
think, yeah, I think that's probably the right thing to do at this point. So hang in, Lisa, and
okay.
We'll see how the meeting develops. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other present to speak? Okay, moving on to new business, budget discussion, emergency services. I think based on how we've done this past years and based on the size of the budgets, we'll start with Fire Marshal Palmer. If you'd like to talk about your budget request.
Mike, do you have my budget request in front of you?
I do indeed, and I'm going to try to get it on the screen while you're talking. So go ahead and.
All right, basically, I have a 0% increase, maintaining my budget status as it has in the past. The only thing is if the town feels that the non-union people should get a percentage increase, that I be considered as well. But everything is at status quo. There's no increase request in my budget whatsoever, other than that non-union raise.
Okay, thank you. I'm getting your, hang on, I'm getting your budget request right now. And if I do this right, I'm going to put it on the screen. Anyone have any questions for the fire marshal while I'm getting his budget up on the screen? Okay. Here we go. Okay, was someone calling?
Yeah, me. Mike. I don't really have a question for Fire Marshal Palmer. It's more, I believe this may be an Erica question. Is the raises for non-union employees included in the selectmen's budget? So we'll find out then what we're planning, or I just need to know what to look forward to. I don't need to know what that is right now.
So I'll take the first shot at that. If this situation panned out as Dick Palmer has requested, it would end up coming out of his budget in the line 115, fire marshal salary. However, I'm sure some of those employees also fit into the selectmen's budget, but they wouldn't all be in the selectmen's budget.
Right. I was just wondering if we had any idea about percentages, that kind of thing yet, or whether we'll be hearing about that during the selectmen's budget. That's all.
Oh,
because
okay.
I think we need to adjust this line, the pay line in this budget based on what's in the other budget. If we're going to do that, that was my only question.
Okay.
And Peter, is your question mean, is it the same? Is it on a par with what the contract will be, or is it? Yeah, just I don't even want to know what it is or how much it is. I just want to know when we're going to find out how much that is, so we can come back and add it to this line here. I don't even know. Is there a contract agreement?
There is with the contract employees. We're still waiting to finalize it and sign it off. But there is a understanding at this point.
Is there a number?
Yeah, I don't know whether I can reveal that until the thing is signed or not. I know what it is. I just don't know what the legality of me saying what it is.
I think Erica is saying no, it can't be revealed right now.
We've not a contract has not been ratified yet, so I would respectfully decline responding to that.
That was my instinct as well, Erica. Thank you. But Erica, did you get my other question on?
I understand what you're saying as far as this budget that you're looking forward to. The money would have to, be included in this budget. And Peter, as soon as we know that, I would assume if we extend that to all employees, that certainly you might be looking at a potential increase in this budget. So
that was my question, and I was just wondering.
Yeah, it's not being accounted for in the selectmen's budget for the forthcoming year. So,
all right. So when that comes up in a couple of weeks here, we'll find out what it is. All I wanted to know. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other board questions, comments? Call out your name because I can't see you all on my screen when I'm screen sharing. If you have a question, just speak up, please, for the board. Any questions for Fire Marshal Palmer while he's on? You did also receive his other information that talked about fire marshal duties. All right, are we ready to release Palmer?
So.
All right, Dick, thank you for being here. Sorry we kept you so long.
Okay, but thank you very much.
You're all set.
All right, good night. Bye-bye.
Okay. Chief Snyder, you have the next smallest presentation. Are you ready to go?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. You're ready.
All right. I'm going to get it on the screen while you, if you want to introduce it, I'm going to find it here.
Okay. I mean, while you're doing that, I can discuss, I do have another side note on our finances, which I think applies in this situation or is part of this whole process. Everybody knows that we are renting across the street, 25 Old Farms Road. And we are also applying to the Board of Assessment Appeals on taxes at this current point in time. It looks like we're going to be receiving a tax bill for about what we have collected at this point. And so it would be a wash up to date in terms of those finances. It's just about a little under $12,000 collected, and the bill is supposed to be a little over $11,000 for taxes. For the tax bill. So again, at this point in time, it's a wash. We are applying to the Board of Assessment Appeals to do away with that tax liability. And if that does happen, I just want everybody to know that we will be going back to the Board of Finance to discuss exactly how much money there is and exactly which way to direct those funds. So that was just the first side note that I had. It's not on my budget. It doesn't need to be in my budget. So I can move on unless anybody has any questions about that.
Any board questions on that rental money? Okay, let's talk about your budget. I have it on the screen now. Okay, so our budget this year is coming in with a 2.37% increase, primarily because the cost of everything on the certain line items with notes on the sides. Most of the things have a significant increase, medical supplies, things like that, which again comes out to a 2.37% increase. We really don't have any other big additions or anything like that to the budget. Just the things that we have on there currently will fall into place and be just fine the way they are. So again, I did put notes like I did last year. I don't know if there's any other submissions like this, but the notes coincide with the notes on the bottom of the Excel sheet. Note 1 basically is basing everything on the percentage of that line item and where we are calendar year to date. It looks like we're on par with that's going to be a little bit more money than we expected. The other ones basically note 2, 3, 4, 5. And the rest of them, it looks like pretty much our cost increases to us. So there's slight increases for a total of $3,200 increase for the year at 2.37%, bringing the total to $138,500. Okay, questions from the board for Chief Snyder, or if someone wants me to be on a certain place on this screen, I'm just sort of scrolling around right now.
Tom, Steph Summers, can I speak, Mike?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, Tom, I just wondered down on protective clothing purchase, you know, you're going down like 25%, 24% on that, and wondered what that's about. Obviously that recoups some of your savings on the medical expenses.
I have to apologize, Steph, that I did lose my audio during most of your question.
Oh, okay. I was just asking about the line that Mike just highlighted on the screen. Can you see that? The one about protective clothing purchase.
Yep,
you know, you're taking some off that budget that it's been $22.50 off that. I just wondered why the decline.
Well, the decline is because we did get some gear, and we got some financing through CIP for gear. So a lot of our gear is up to date. These bunker, that's pretty much includes the fire protective clothing, you know, the bunker gear and stuff, which is about $3,000 a set. So again, we're going to keep room in there for a couple of sets if needed, but reducing it by about a set to offset, because we did get some fairly, you know, a complement of new gear. So
thank you.
Other questions from the board? Again, keep in mind, board members, I can't see all of you, so if you're waving and I'm not answering, just yell your name. Pete, go ahead.
Chief, I don't see the electric line. I know that's the cost of electricity going up for all of us. Is that reflected?
Just basic electricity for all of our buildings, Pete, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, there wasn't any increase that we put in there. We do have 1, 2, 3, 4 line items for that. And we kind of based that on year-to-date spending. If you look right now, when this was put together anyway, a month or so ago, the first electric line item is $57.50, and we're at $1,900 for that. So again, it seems pretty online with wrapping up the year. It should be okay as it is. I know there's been increases and such, but again, it looks like we'll be okay in those line items the way they are.
Thank you.
Yep.
Questions from the board?
Tom, one thing I've kind of been asking for some of the presenters, do you have anything, any costs that you're applying to for ARPA money for?
Well, we haven't gotten any formal requests in yet, but yeah, there is, I mean, most of the things that involve the CIP requests are, you know, we're going to put them in as well as the ARPA money. Hopefully the ARPA money would take care of it, and then that will free up money in the CIP side of things, such as our service truck. I'm not sure if that's going to be getting in there. Again, we haven't put any formal requests in because we haven't gotten that far or anything from the ARPA committee. But the radios, I know that we put in a joint submission with Wellington One for radio systems around town. That's going to be going in there. And hopefully things like the air packs, the SCBAs that are required to be replaced this year and have to be replaced this year at about $137,000. I know it's put in the CIP and in the CIP, but hopefully that'll go into ARPA as well. So there'll be significant changes from our CIP request, but not really budget requests.
Thanks.
I've got a couple questions, and I apologize that I don't know this, but in line 68 here, Chief, do you know what this fund balance is, or is that a Donna question? Is that a number that comes on the form?
Let's see. 68, I'm assuming that is monies that are left after expenses, Donna? Currently?
So this is roughly what's unspent in your year's budget to date. Is that what you're saying?
I would think so.
I'm getting a calculator right now to check it.
Yeah, I'd have to do the same thing, Mike.
Donna, are you on? Guess not. Well, it's not exactly to the dollar. It's a couple $1,000s off, but maybe it's off by that 2156. Hang on.
Yeah, up to 280.
Yeah, it's pretty close. It's not exactly, but so maybe that's what's not yet spent in the current fiscal year.
Yeah, it's right. Yeah, it's right there. Like you said, it's off by a couple thousand.
Yeah.
And I'd have to assume that's it. Maybe something wasn't submitted in terms of expenses on the line item or two. Apologize for not having the answer to that question.
All right, and then there was one other thing I noticed here, looking at increases. Somewhere up here, I saw something on insurance. Line 25, a 8.5% increase in insurance. I know in the past this was sort of rebid every couple of years. Do you know what the status is with the insurance? It looks like the current year you're paying more than what was budgeted.
Yeah, we're paying more than was budgeted, but I think that's because they combined the two. If you look back, they added the insurance for the 25 Old Farms roads into one line item as opposed to two.
Okay.
Okay, and I see 2 years ago you had it as its own line item.
Right.
Okay.
And this current year, it's not. Why it's a zero on that line item. Everything's combined.
Okay. Any other board questions for Chief Snyder? Okay. I think that's it.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Chief Moore, which one do you want to start with? And then give me a second and I'll get it on the screen.
Your choice. Either one's fine.
Why don't we start with the simple one, that fire protection budget for the AE, the $6,000 one?
Yep. It's simply to keep.
Go ahead. Sorry to interrupt. Quick question on everybody disappeared. Do we have the emergency management budget coming up as well?
I did not receive it. I'm thinking that it comes in the selectmen's packet.
Okay. I thought in past years that Stuart presented, but I thank you for allowing me to interrupt.
Mike, usually that's separate, and I did send it in, and Donna acknowledged she received it. No change to it.
So that should be tonight, is what you're saying?
That's how it's typically handled, yes.
All right, I'll look for it. Maybe I missed it in an email. In the meantime, go ahead, Chief.
All right. Excuse me. The AED budget, there is no change. This covers the defibrillators that are around town in the town buildings. This year we have to start replacing some of the batteries and pads in them. And this will also allow us to buy 2 new ones to go on the fire apparatus to replace outdated equipment. So the plan is to keep the program going. Those that did not hear, we did get our Heart Safe designation this year. That was what our overall goal was. So a lot of work went into doing that to get the AEDs into the buildings, plus being able to do the training with town employees, school employees, and town residents. So the program's worked very well so far. Knock on wood, we haven't had to use a single one of them, but they are in every town building, firehouses, and such.
Chief, is there a plan for repeat training or update training so we can maintain people around
Yes.
who feel comfortable with them?
Yep. So every year we're offering, and usually we start early spring. of setting up classes at least through the schools, and then whenever we can get the town hall. You know, with COVID, we haven't really done a lot at the town hall or town office building, but we will be.
Okay.
Thanks for doing that.
Board question. Whoops, wrong. Board questions. All right.
That was the easy one.
Yeah, that's why I started there.
It was the warm up.
Let's see. All right. So let's see what else I've got here. So that was fire protection. All right. Let's do fire department operational budget.
Okay.
And I think, there we go.
All right. I did submit a line item breakdown for every line item just in case somebody had any questions and try to better define it before tonight. Not sure if that helped or not, but I'm just going to go over the increase, the lines that have an increase, if that's all right.
Sure.
Excuse me. Telephone general. That's to cover the iPads in the trucks that run the I Am Responding program that we have between us and Wellington Hill. There's 3 iPads, one in the service truck, the ambulance, and one of the squad, our rescue pumper. It also covers the wireless modem that's in the ambulance. The wireless modem in the ambulance is needed to run the heart monitor, stuff like that. It has to be in there so that it can transmit. Next
so
line item.
Let me just a question on that. Yep. So the increase of 2,800 is for the 3 iPads. Is that what you're saying?
The 3 iPad. Yeah. Yep. And that was brought up last year. We had gotten a grant to do the iPads, the installation of them and stuff like that.
Okay.
Electricity, station 13 is up. These are the numbers that we had gotten, or the stuff that we had gotten from Donna. There's a $400 increase to the main station and a $200 increase to the south station. Heat and propane, again, there is an increase for both stations. Insurance, our insurance goes, I believe November is when it starts. November or January is when our renewal, January 1st, I'm sorry. So it renews January 1st. It is going out to bid again in November before the next renewal cycle. And I think I put that in the packet for you guys.
Yeah, you have a pretty big increase there.
Yeah, there was a big increase that we were not expecting this year. But that there is part of that had to do with our emergency assistance program or EAP program. So there is an increase. It will go back out for bid October, November.
So that's an employee emergency assistance program, support program.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Plus it covers our regular, all of our other liability.
All the regular insurance. Yeah.
All the regular insurance.
So normally the employee costs are in the ambulance budget, but because this is something that could be affecting any of the members of the department,
it's the policy is open for volunteers, paid staff. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
And what is that? Could you just tell me what that program is a little bit? Did you say EAP or?
Yeah, EAP. It's a assistance.
Oh, I know what it is.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Chief, is that a state program or is that through a private industry?
Private industry.
Thank you.
Yep. Any more questions regarding that, or?
I don't think so.
The next is, excuse me, protective clothing purchase. We have been fortunate and have gotten some new members in, some new volunteer members. Also newer per diem people. So we need to buy some more gear. As Chief Snyder said, it's $3,000 to $5,000 to buy a full set of gear from helmet down. This will let us get 2.5 sets of gear. And then fire equipment purchases. We did raise this a little bit because we need to replace a couple of our thermal imaging cameras. They fall under the capital improvements threshold of 10,000, but they're a needed item that we have to purchase. The last time we purchased these, we brought them used from a larger department, and we were able to get a couple of years out of them, but they're really beat up and a couple of them aren't working. So we really need to replace what we have. And the last increase is to medical equipment, and that's purely on, one, our call volume is up, and two, the cost of medical supplies is through the roof right now.
Okay. So
the total increase is 11.57%, or increase of 15,000. Just a reminder, most of that is fixed cost increase. There is no thrills about our budget this year at all.
Okay. Board member questions for the chief on this budget.
Stephanie's question, ARPA request, you got any in?
Yep. So we are making the request to purchase the used ambulance, or the second ambulance, through ARPA. And that's to buy it, outfit it, and get it on the road and running. We did not increase the maintenance line item on this, with the hope that running both trucks will kind of even out the maintenance a little bit. We're hoping. Excuse me. And with all the repairs that we just put into our ambulance now, we're hoping that this it'll sustain it. Other than that, just the stuff that Chief Snyder brought up, the joint radio project and the fit test machine is what we have for right now.
I suppose I could have asked Chief Snyder this as well, but what's the radio cost, and are you going to the State Police 800s, or are you?
It is to go to the. It is to go to the. Yep, it is to go to the 800 system with Public Works. Excuse me. We do have a couple of radios now, and it works very well. The coverage around town is unbelievable compared to what we do now. You know, responding to a call, I could have to change towers 3 times to be able to talk. So being able to upgrade will be fantastic. And it's about 200, and I think we have 286,000 is what's on there, was what was listed with CIP, roughly.
All right.
And did you say the second ambulance is 80, or what is your placeholder for that with ARPA?
We haven't. We had said 80. So 80 to 100, depending on what. If we could put 100,000 on ARPA as a absolute max, I don't see us spending that. But
and Chief, I'm sorry to keep breaking in like this.
That's okay.
I had a chance to talk to our state representative Tammy Lucio.
Yeah. Okay.
And she told me that the repairs on our current ambulance were good. ARPA was good for that. That ARPA would cover that. So consider putting that money in there as well.
Okay. I didn't know repairs could go towards ARPA.
Yeah, I didn't either, and I was very surprised when she told me that, and so that's why I was forwarding that information.
The hard part is I don't know when when the bill comes to. I don't know. Can you go back?
Right.
I don't know how that works.
Is it currently being fixed?
It is being fixed.
I missed that meeting. I had to attend the funeral, but
yeah,
thank you.
It is being fixed, and we went with the lower option of just fixing it, not replacing the motor. So it actually should be coming out of the dealership today or tomorrow to go to get the rear end fixed. So
after that, does it have to go to the state for certification?
No, because we never took it off. We never took it offline. So
excellent.
It does not.
So that repair is around 14K, including the rear axle, right?
Roughly, yes.
Any other questions for the chief? Okay. I think last and biggest, Chief, is your ambulance salary budget, right? Let me.
Yep.
Give me a second to find it. I should be seeing it now.
Yep.
All right. Okay.
All right. So the biggest is the wage increase. This is what we've been talking about for the last few months, after having to give the employees that to do that wage adjustment mid-year. So there is an increase of 6.85% or $40,000, 490 to our total expense for payroll this year. That is a built-in increase come July 1 with the contract. The one good note I will say, we did get some funding from the town of Union through their Arpa. We picked it up yesterday, and that was for $13,000 to go towards our payroll.
How did you arrive at that?
We had done, when we started negotiating or talking with them, it was half of what we had anticipated our increase to be this year for the wage adjustment, because it's currently in this year's budget. Our hope is that our will be okay in our budget this year and it can be applied to next year's budget, but I think that's something that we got to work out in a month or two once we actually see where we are with the figures.
So what you're saying, Chief, is you're intending to be able to apply it in the current fiscal year if you need to, and if not, you'll roll it in the next fiscal year.
Correct.
Okay.
And there is talks, depending on what their ARPA stuff or what they're able to do, for getting more towards next year, but it's too early there to even try to figure that out yet. But we have been working with them to try to get some funding back to us and to come back to us. The last meeting that we had with the town of Union, it was decided that, you know, if we were doing it, it had to come through the fire department. That's how the town of Union could do it, is because we're the ones providing the service. So it would come to the fire department, and then the fire department transfers it to the town, like we do with the monthly tower payment, stuff like that, to go towards payroll. The biggest thing is making sure that it goes towards payroll, because if at any time it is audited, I need to be able to show that it went to payroll.
Alex, you know, when we did a rough analysis of that based on percentage of calls of your total and also population compared to our total population, came out to around 10% of the outlay of the town, and the outlay of the town is, it came out 10, they have about 10% of the calls out of the whole, and they have about 10% of the population Wellington has. So the outlay for the town taxpayers around, I don't know, Donna, I think something like 459,000. And so annualized, that would be, if they were to pay a direct share of calls and stuff, it would be around 48,000, I think was the number that and I know it was a rough calculation, but I think it's pretty close given that the calls mimic the population percentage as well. And I just wondered, was that figure ever thrown out as something to grow into with Union, and what it would be the idea for going forward after ARPA?
So we have, I know we had discussed it when we had our joint meeting about it being at 10% or something like that. I don't know what the reaction to that is. I really don't. We had worked to try to get the ARPA funding because that was the quickest way to try to get some money back. Seeing it's in the middle of the budget season. And with the way what they were only comfortable with was whatever the language was in ARPA for the extra pay. And that's how they had done it, was to go towards our pay increase that we had given. And that's why they did half of it.
Right, but the increase doesn't really address the ongoing cost of the full ambulance service. That's a small piece to start.
It is a small piece. There has not been any talks about that. And the last, when we had left, we had started talking about ARPA stuff, and we have not. They haven't even started their budget stuff up there. Okay,
I understand. I want to point out too that there are 13 years that that there was no contribution from union, that they received this service. That's not really mutual aid because they don't have an ambulance, so there's no mutuality in it. I think Pete pointed that out before too in a Board of Finance meeting. So I just, given that there's, we're not asking to go back necessarily, but sure would like to get to something equitable sooner rather than later, given that there have been a lot of years of free service paid for by the taxpayers of Wellington.
And Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, their argument is that their residents are paying it, it's just through their insurance. And it's not the town. And that was their biggest argument, is their residents pay it. It's just through their insurance.
Yeah, I think certainly in the longer conversation, there are a lot of perspectives.
Right, absolutely.
Perspectives shared that day. Stephanie is highlighting one of the perspectives, that has some validity to it, that what is the total cost and what's the percentage used in different places.
Absolutely.
I agree that union's perception was, if our people use it, we pay through insurance billing. Right. And I think the argument I made was, we completely agree, but the insurance only recovers about 27% of the cost of running the service. Their counter argument to that, I believe, was something to the effect of, well, you have to pay to run the service anyway, so we're added revenue. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to bat around those different theories. But I think, to Stephanie's point, this is a nice start. This is a great accomplishment.
And I'm more than willing to keep the conversation trying to go. I think that this was a good start.
It's a great start, especially since there was nothing in the past. And let's see where this can go.
Thanks.
Other board comments for the chief?
Yeah, I have one.
Go ahead.
Line 8, 11.49% decrease in insurance.
Yep. We had a employee leave mid-year. So we had a savings just because it's a different class of insurance. He had a family, the new employee does not.
Okay.
So we had some savings with that.
Thank you.
Other board comments and questions for the ambulance budget?
Hey, Mike.
Go ahead.
Donna pointed out an error in the spreadsheet that none of us, or she cut late this afternoon under the revenue side of things. The transfer from general funds, I believe, has to go up $10,000.
That's on my list of questions. I
mean, ultimately, it's up to the Board of Finance to determine the revenue side of where the money is coming from. Some years you've gone to Fund 17 for more or less money. The 10,000 has been kind of the average overall. You guys set the revenue side of things, but there is a $10,000 error in there that needs to be corrected.
That was, thank you. I'm glad you brought it up because that was my next question. Yep. Okay, that's good. Chief, you did mention tower revenue. So I know this over the last couple of years, just refresh me. This number right here is money that you're transferring from the tower revenue into your budget as revenue. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, because we give 30,000 to go towards the night shift to offset the night shift position.
Okay. So is this the total tower revenue, or this is the contribution towards the?
This is the contribution. Salary. We don't get a whole lot more than that. There's not. Yeah, I don't know the exact total of revenue off the top of my head, and I apologize. Stuart, any idea?
It's probably 70% of the revenue we collect off the tower, maybe more, that $30,000 figure. Out of the remaining money is we pay for the cable TV at the firehouse, the annual meeting expenses, the Christmas party for the volunteers, that sort of thing. So there's a little bit of money there, but not a lot. And if you were to take that away, we'd have to introduce more things into the budget for you to pay for.
Okay. So you're saying it's somewhere maybe in the $37,000 to $40,000 range, somewhere in there?
Yes, and it does vary. Somewhere. It varies depending on what carrier we had in there. For a while, we had a carrier that we're only supposed to collect 25% on the subleases. And for some reason, we were collecting 100%. And even though we brought it to AT&T's attention, they didn't care. But when that cell carrier left and somebody new came in, they caught it and go, oh, so our tower revenue went down quite a bit. I think we used to give you, I think, $45,000 a year, but that left when the cell carrier left.
Okay. Same question. Donna, this
yes.
38 on here, we talked about this in the other budgets. Can you just kind of give a quick thing of what line 38 I highlighted on the screen, what that fund balance means?
I'm going to give you a full report of all the fund balances next week.
Okay.
Okay, so you know what are the audited, yeah, I'll give you the audited fund balance. I just want to make sure exactly what that is.
Okay. Great. Anything else for Chief Moore on the ambulance budget?
Yeah, Mike, this is Jim. I have a quick question on the revenue side. Being relatively new to this, I heard that the town of Union's position is that their residents are reimbursing us via their insurance payments. Was that right?
Right. So if we go there for a call, we bill their, the patient that we transport.
Where is that in this revenue line, this revenue block?
It goes into Fund 17.
Okay.
It doesn't come into the payroll budget itself. It goes, any of our patient related charges or billing goes into Fund 17, and that's what typically pays for all the fire apparatus, ambulance purchases, stuff like that. Usually there's a $10,000 transfer out to payroll, but the bulk of that goes
right
to
here on line 26.
And most of that is coming from insurance payments.
Correct. Oh, yes, and the bulk of what comes in from patient billings goes to, well, all of it goes to buying fire or EMS related equipment or projects.
Okay, thank you for that explanation.
Donna, to that point, will your report next week show the revenue from ambulance calls that come in?
I can, yes.
If we could see that. I would like to see the actual tower.
Yeah, I would
revenue too. Because we've asked for it several times. I'd like to just see the figures.
Can you get us a number, Chief, for that revenue, even if you send it to me by email, what the actual annual is?
I'm going to defer to Stuart on that. I honestly have nothing to do with that.
Okay.
I think Donna said she could do that.
Well, I can do, yeah, not the tower. I can do Fund 17, the billing. I can show you ambulance billing financials.
That would be good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Donna.
Donna, can you show the what that was projected out through CIP as well, though?
I can, yeah, I can forecast it out.
The report that you had presented last week with CIP.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Lisa, you had a question?
Yeah, I do. Chief Moore, I was wondering if, so when you say the last question that was asked by one of the townspeople, if the revenue for runs to Union are reimbursed, just like the revenue is reimbursed for Willington runs, then we fund the differential in taxes. So is there a line item for Union to also offset the differential from their taxes?
Not that I'm aware of.
And how do you feel about that? Is that fair to the Willington taxpayers?
And I don't think it is. And I think that's been my position all along of, I agree, you know, and that's why we're working to try to get the funding out of them. I think that getting some ARPA money was a great start. I don't know how they're
ARPA money? We're getting some of their ARPA money?
They gave us some of their ARPA money to go towards our payroll.
13,000.
And is that to be every year? So how are they going to be sustaining that year on year end if they don't have ARPA money every year?
We have not had that conversation yet.
Do you plan to have that conversation?
Yes. And Mike and I and the first select woman met with them. That's not an easy task with them.
Certainly not, but it's not an easy task for all of us either.
I agree with you.
Okay.
You know, when we're looking at $48,000, $50,000 trying to ask them for that, that's their entire fire department's budget. So that's where they're having and trust me, I understand that. It's just, that's where they're, you know.
I do appreciate the difficult conversation, but I very much appreciate as a member of this board and a member in town, they feeling and appreciating and trying to return back to the Willington taxpayers the benefit they have gained over the last many, many, many years. And I don't know that it can be right-sized because, as you say, they don't have the funding. So again, what are they going to do for the Willington taxpayers to enjoy
I don't have any answers.
Right, but I think that the fire department needs to have an answer for the Willington town taxpayer, especially all of us that come to this every week and those that are not on the board that are very eager every week.
Right.
They have enjoyed it year in and year out on our tax back, on our hard work and our tax dollars, because we want to support the Willington ambulance. And so we want to make sure that you grow responsibly as our census drops and not continue to add a community that is not willing to help support and fund your private ambulance company. Right?
Okay.
All right.
Yes.
So you will get
trust me, I understand it's a very difficult conversation to have with them. And we are trying to have that conversation.
It's a very difficult conversation for us to
I also understand that.
Okay.
They also look at it as if you don't come here, somebody else will. And
great.
We'll lose that revenue.
That's great. That's fine. They're not paying for the
Are we willing to lose the revenue when
our
expenses are going to go down?
But you're not getting the revenue because we the Willington taxpayers, we the Willington taxpayers are supporting the building, the equipment, the AEDs you just talked about, the training. We want to support our fire department. Union needs to understand, because they don't have one, they don't have an ambulance. They should not retort with an answer to you that says, oh, well, we'll just go to somebody else. And everybody on this call tonight in this meeting that took time out of their personal day needs to understand that. I don't know that everybody truly understands that. It's not okay.
Okay.
Any more?
I just wanted to clarify for Jim, because he was asking you know, he was kind of starting, he was trying to understand this, is that basically, I think you probably know now, Jim, but it's an augmented service. What people pay through their insurance only covers a fourth of what it costs to operate the ambulance. That's the gap that we're.
That's the balance that the Willington taxpayers pay.
Exactly.
Yep. Thanks, Stephanie.
Okay.
And I don't think that's been transparent over the 26 years I've lived in town.
Other board comments, questions?
Yeah, Mike. I think that we're on the right track here, and we've been tracking this for a couple of months now, and I think that it is important that we go to union, and I'm very glad to hear from Chief Moore that we've now received some funding, which is $13,000 more than zero funding. I don't think it's a direct 25%, like that's the simple math. The other math that we have to take into effect is that we could probably get a cheaper ambulance service by just contracting with AMR or something. So we would lose a tremendous amount.
I don't think that's true, but I don't think that's true.
Hang on, Lisa, hang on. Let Pete finish, please.
It's okay. I'm not trying to be rude.
No,
I'm just correcting it for everybody on the call.
Lisa, I didn't call.
Mike.
I've muted you, Lisa. If you're not going to recognize the chair, I'm going to mute you. You interrupted Pete talking. Let Pete finish.
I think that the math is not quite as simple. I think that if we contract with AMR, we would save a tremendous, we'd save some money. However, we would lose the fact that we have two fire first responders in the building should a fire occur if we did go to AMR. They're not responding to our fires, and we would lose those personnel in the building. So it's not a direct math contrast there, and I think we should take that into account as well. I think that's part of the reason this is such a difficult conversation. Thank you.
Okay, Lisa, go ahead.
I just want to tell Peter, I appreciate what he just said, but coming from this emergency space, I don't think contracting out to a private ambulance company would do just that. And I don't think that they would be transparent with the town. I think what needs to happen is that the ambulance company in Willington, made up of people that have been in town just as long as all of us, need to be extremely 100% transparent with the Willington taxpayers. And I don't think they've done that. I do think that they have dreams of growing and servicing a larger community than they do today, but they truly need to understand that that cannot be funded any longer by the Willington tax dollars and the people that work hard in the town. If they want to grow and they want to become a larger private ambulance service that's partially funded by the a large amount funded by the Willington tax dollars, taxpayers, they need to find how to fund that. They can't continue down this path. They did this unbeknownst to all of us because they thought they were trying to do the right thing, and I can appreciate that. But it's not self-sustained. It's not sustainable. And I worry with the second ambulance, and I worry about that a lot.
Chief, do you want to respond?
Can I just address couple of the comments?
Yeah, go ahead.
One, we're not trying to grow to do more calls. The reason for the second ambulance is purely so that when our ambulance is out of service, we're not out of service. When our ambulance gets like we have right now, where it's out for repair, luckily we're able to borrow a truck this time. That doesn't always happen. We want to continue to be able to bring the revenue in. That's what the need for the second ambulance is. It's not to gain more calls or to go out farther than we are now. We're doing everything we can to handle the calls that we have. And our call volume, anybody that listens to the scanner, or Mike can probably tell you, our call volume's up a lot over the last 2 years. We were doing 600-700 calls. We're over 900 this year and projected to hit over 1,000 for next year. That's just for Wellington.
Years. Yeah, it's been a tough couple of years.
I think there were 7.
And I don't think it's going to slow down. I'm sorry, Mike.
I think a couple of days ago, there were like 7 in one day or something like that.
Yeah, right. I mean, I can appreciate
that. We're not trying to grow so that we can reach out and farther to do more calls. And as far as the union deal, I don't know how that was done. That was done well before my time.
Okay.
But to all the records that I've seen, that was put through the town, and the town knew about it before it happened. So to say that it was done by the fire department on their own, it wasn't. There was discussions with the town before that happened.
I didn't realize that, but I do. I mean,
and that keeps getting tossed around, and I apologize. It just there was discussions that happened with the town, and the town knew about that before they applied. It's not something that the fire department just arbitrarily went out and did on their own.
So that's something I should probably research, because I wasn't aware of that. And I thank you for pointing that out. I just think that from where I sit and the reimbursement schedule that I see, that is yours as well, isn't going up. It's streamlining and getting more efficient, which means ambulance companies are moving their territory in a radius that's close, you know what I'm saying, a smaller radius, not a larger radius. So, I can appreciate
we're doing everything we can to gain revenue wherever we possibly can. And
right, but as long as it's
we're not trying to grow.
As long as it doesn't stopgap from the Wellington tax dollars.
Yep.
Chief, there's one area we have talked about a little bit, and I don't know if you have any light on it, and that is that I think it was effective January 1st. The state was allowing some changes in what you can bill and percentages. Yep. Do you yet have a feel on how that's going to help, or do you need to really see it?
Excuse me, because it's, we don't know what that is yet. We know the 4.1% increase from the state effective January 1st. But it's, we won't start seeing those revenues until end of March, April, May. The way patient billings are, and as far as the refusals and the lift assist and stuff like that, it will be an increase. I have no idea what that's going to be. We know what our annual percentage is, but the state put a very broad or stringent criteria what you have to do to make it a billable event. So making sure that our and that's a training thing on our crews. So it's a learning curve of us not getting canceled for somebody that's getting a refusal, because if we get canceled before we get there, we don't get the money.
Right.
And that happens, and let's be honest, that happens quite frequently. If there's no reason for the ambulance to be there, the fire department can handle it, or we're going mutual aid somewhere, we're not going to get paid for that. Same thing with a lift assist. If the fire department can handle it before we get there, there's no reason for us to go and keep us freed up for something else. So I don't know what those projections are. I don't even want to try to throw a number.
This time next year, we may have a little better idea.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Lisa?
Mike, I just want to say too to that is that typically the state has done, the state does research and then, we all have to wait and see where that lands, but 4.61% increase is not supposed to be able to make them money. It's supposed to be able to hopefully get them something greater than the loss they receive. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't offset the increases that are going on in like gas and like supplies and like metal, and you know what I'm saying, right?
It's just narrowing the gap.
I'm glad that they offered it, but
Right.
And trust me, we're trying to be as efficient as we can, and
right.
Every agency in the state of Connecticut is going through the exact same problem, the exact same conversations.
That's why a private ambulance company is not in my opinion.
Yeah, that's not.
Is not a solution for Wellington. We're blessed to have you. It's just that we want to be able to utilize you in Wellington.
Okay, Stephanie.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Alex because they're about the history. So you're saying when the agreement with union started and the PSA was set up, which commits us to go to these calls, right?
It commits the fire department, yes.
Yes. was that signed off by the selectmen?
I honestly, I don't know, but I know it was brought up with the town. I don't know how that all transpired. It was before I was here, but I know that conversations were had at the town.
All right, because I think that's where the commitment began, and is apparently
and it's
pretty
I'm
hard
sorry,
to
but that
undo
was way before my time.
Yeah, it would be good to know that.
But you know what? That's the other thing, Steph and Mike and Chief Moore, is that it is before your time, and we all have a timeline here. And so if we're trying to do the best we can for the town, we're thinking about yesterday, present, and how do we move forward? And if we're not here, all four of us aren't here, all seven of us, Pete Tanaka and everybody else, Jeff, how do we know it's contained? You know what I'm saying? The line of it was before I was here, it's unfortunate, but it doesn't help the situation financially today and moving forward.
Okay, anything else for the chief? Okay, that was your last budget, right, Chief?
I hope so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I realize these conversations are tough sometimes.
That's perfectly okay.
Just as you've seen us with other departments like Public Works, they have big budgets. It's tough to wrestle with because we have to find the money for it. So thank you for participating so we can try to make a good decision.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I believe what we have left is potentially Stewart's emergency manager budget. If you all will just hang on 1 second. I haven't yet found it in emails. Stuart, if I can't find it, are you willing to post?
It's very simple, and I'll send it to you directly, Mike.
Okay, go for it.
But no change in overall. There's a $6,000 budget request for the EMD stipend, which is me. There's $1,047 set aside for the generator maintenance at Hall School. I know just last week they had to replace the block heater for, I think it was $600 or $700 in the thing, for a total of $7,047.
Okay. All right. So what is the overall difference between the current year?
Zero, no change.
Okay. I did a quick scan through emails. I haven't found it yet, so I'm sorry that I can't screen share it for people. Does anyone have a question for Stuart on that budget?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Stuart, does that, would you be looking for the same non-union pay raise?
No, I'm comfortable the way it is.
Oh, thank you. Even better.
Yeah, that's a little unique, Stuart, right? Because it's a stipend thing and it has a partial payback from the state, right? Like half of it gets paid back or something?
Yeah, there's a emergency management performance grant that usually works, although it takes 1 to 2, sometimes 3 years to get the money back, because it comes from the feds to the state, and the state's behind on processing the grants. So you won't see a 1-to-1 any particular time period. Also, as part of the EMPG, they don't accept ongoing payments. Like, let's pretend I asked you to pay for a cell phone. They won't do that. My gas going to meetings, we still have in-person meetings here, there, and I'm all over, down to Plainfield, Norwich, whatever. That all comes out of my pocket. But there's a stipend, and it keeps a stable cost of the town, but it gets some money back in my pocket to offset some of the expenses and make a little money for me.
Okay. Any other questions for Stuart? Well, I will get that distributed to the board members by email. Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you.
Okay, so I believe that takes care of emergency services, unless anyone else on the board has any more discussion on what we've reviewed in emergency services. Okay, let's move to ARPA update. If you hang on a second, I have an email because Christina couldn't be here tonight. She sent me an update as our representative to the Arpa committee. So stand by and I will find it. Okay. I'm going to read this. I got it in an email from her today. I will forward it out to the board members as a communication, but I'm going to read it right now. ARPA Commission, there have been 2 meetings of the ARPA Commission so far. Most recent was Monday, 2/7. The Commission has received some informal ARPA funding requests from various departments, including the CIP committee. The Commission discussed a process for soliciting requests, a process for vetting and prioritizing requests, and how the appropriation process will work. A funding request form will be disseminated as early as next week with the goal of having some formal requests in hand by the next meeting, which is February 28th. The ARPA Commission agrees that it is important to get funds to businesses and families or individuals who need it ASAP, and hope to have fleshed out proposals from Human Services and Economic Development to consider. The CIP committee has requested provisional approval for several projects that would provide relief in the coming budget process. It is possible that the provisional approval or even actual appropriations for some requests could be voted on at that meeting, but the Commission would like to understand the full scope of requests and getting public input before making major decisions. As a reminder, per the ordinance approved in December, the appropriations will not go through the usual process of Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen, and town meeting approval, and the appropriations will be handled by the ARPA Commission directly. This is unusual, and the actual process for making the appropriations, for example, how to word the motions, is still being worked out. I'm attaching a copy of the ordinance for your information. Respectfully submitted, Christina Milos. I will email that out, and Kelsey, I'll send that to you so you can insert it into the record instead of trying to redo all of that from the tape. Lisa, go ahead.
Christina's coming, just in case now you guys are talking about ARPA.
What do you mean Christina's coming?
She's coming back on the...
She's joining. She wants to join. I just want to let you know.
Oh, okay. All right. Other board questions, discussion. I think there is still, there is a little bit of question about this process thing, which gives me a little bit of concern as the Board of Finance that we don't accidentally, and with no bad intentions, we don't end up in a position where there is some sort of a glitch in the approval process. As pointed out in Christina's email, it doesn't follow the normal process. And that was some of the goal of the ordinance. I'm not 100% convinced that we've worked the kinks out. I know Christina had some conversations with Erica and Donna this week. So I don't know exactly where that's going to fall. I do have a little bit of concern about it. Again, as I said, I just want to make sure we do things correctly and we don't end up down the road and realize that we've made an error. I do kind of think that I didn't know it at the time, but when I put in this year, the current fiscal year we're in now, when I put in the fire, see, that's all I'm thinking about tonight is fire departments. When I put into the Board of Finance budget money for attorney services, I didn't envision this exact scenario, but perhaps this is where we might, as the Board of Finance, it might be an opportunity for us to seek the proper town attorney type financial guidance. So I guess I'm bringing that up for discussion of the board members to see what thoughts are. And so let's have at it.
Mike?
Yeah.
Is Christina joining us or, oh, she's down there in the bottom.
She is coming in now.
I see her there.
Christina, once online, there you go.
Hi, everybody. Sorry, I'm late.
Your timing is excellent. We just started the conversation about ARPA. I read it, and I just started the conversation about trying to understand this approval process and making sure that we do that sort of appropriation allocation thing the right way.
Okay.
So I just did that and said, I asked people for comments, and here you are.
Okay. I still have the same question as when I sent that to you. So
right.
I don't have any more information to add.
I know you've worked with Donna and Erica to close the loop on that.
Yeah.
And you have reviewed the ordinance, and there was an earlier letter from the town attorney. And I guess I'm just a little concerned because it feels like there's a little bit of a question still. And I brought up the fact that we do have money in our budget for the Board of Finance to access attorney services. And I just threw that out to the board. So here we are.
Okay. Donna, were you able to think through like what made me pause was thinking when the ARPA Commission needs to appropriate money, what actual motion are we going to make? Because where normally the motions are to recommend that the Board of Selectmen call a town meeting. So in this case, what are we saying? And will that compel the selectmen to then sign the checks and legally? That was where I ended up with it. Does that make sense? Does that make sense to anybody else?
it does make sense, and I think it may be more important once we hit that $10,000 barrier, because isn't there something in town statutes on spending money over $10,000 without a town meeting?
Well,
but you know, this money is coming in and it's being spent by the town, but it's still more than $10,000. And I don't think we can disregard previous statute by forming a committee, or that would present a loophole in the future that may not be to the furthering of the town.
Yeah, so the Procurement Ordinance is where what I think you're thinking of, Peter, where if it's more than either 10 or 20,000, then we need to go to a town meeting to appropriate. You need to get 3 bids. If it's over 5,000, I think. There's a bunch of different rules, and I don't think we're exempt from following those rules, except for the part about going to town meeting. That part I get from the way it was explained to me is we don't need to do that part. But what I know is that when you go to the whole point of going to a town meeting is to give the selectmen the authority to sign the checks. And the selectmen still have to sign the checks in this case. So is the ARPA Commission going to give them that authority, or is it just inherently, are they just compelled to from a legal perspective? And I don't know the answer to that because I am not a lawyer, and I might be making this more confusing than it needs to be. So I'm sorry for that. I tend to ask too many questions, I guess, but I don't know. I mean, I guess, so the question is, if that commission wants to say yes to a shed for the senior center, that was something that was brought up. What exact motion are we making?
Yeah,
and I don't know. And I'm the chair of the committee, so I don't know.
I don't think you are making it too difficult. I think that there are difficulties here that are presented because we're working outside the scope of normal procedure. And I think that what we want to do is make sure that we don't work so far out of the scope of normal procedure that it becomes normal to work outside that normal procedure in the future. I don't want to open that doorway. And so that's why I think it's important that we work. You know, if you have something that comes out of that committee, perhaps it should come to the Board of Finance, and you make the motion to the Board of Finance. The Board of Finance makes the motion to the selectmen, and then it goes to town meeting, just like a normal procedure. We're just adding in the step of using the Arpa committee as an advisory committee. I'm not sure that's right either. Like you said, this is very difficult, and there's a lot of questions.
Yeah, so the spirit of it was set up this way because, so for expediency's sake, because it's a specific ordinance just for this specific money. So it's a one-time thing, but I don't know that there's any precedent for just how to go through the different steps. So yeah.
In the preparation over the last couple of days for this meeting tonight, I tried to quick sniff around to see how other towns are dealing with this, you know, and that is work that Erica and other people had already been doing, and that was part of where they came up with the information for the ordinance. And so I talked to some other towns who were handling it. Different towns are handling it different ways. That some of them have charters, some of them have chief financial officers. They have various different procedures. So it plays out a little differently in some towns. And I did hear a little bit on the wind that some other towns are wrestling with this same problem of what is really the right procedure, and what, since there's a big set of rules, but still a lot of vague area, what is it that will try to make sure the town will succeed in passing their audits and all this other stuff. So that's what leads me to think that maybe this would be a great time for us to use the funding we have in this current fiscal year to seek a little more legal advice. So I don't know. I mean, it's in our approved budget. I'm thinking that probably it wouldn't hurt to have a motion of this board to ask me as the chairman to pursue some legal advice on it, if that's the right way to do it.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion on the motion.
Well, I'm just wondering, is it legal advice or is it accounting advice, like municipal accounting advice, or is it a combination of both? I'm not sure.
I would imagine legal advice specifically focused on municipal finance. I mean,
yes,
like the current town attorney, I think is a very good town attorney, but his specialty is labor issues and employee issues and all that. So maybe there's either somebody else at his firm, or there's another firm that's available on a state contract or through another purchasing means that has people who are specialized in municipal finance.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with this being a new territory, you know, this could be a little dicey.
I think it's, I don't want to hold up the process at all, you know, I mean, or as little as is necessary, but, you know, I do feel like there's, you know, it could be problematic to sort of do it a completely different way for this one special case and assume that's all going to go smoothly. So I'm, you know, I feel like we do need to consult. Is there any reason why we couldn't use a portion of it to consult our auditors or someone on the financial end that could help us with the financial piece of it?
Well, we could, I mean, I could certainly ask Donna if Mahoney Sable would speak to that. And that, you know, we might need a task letter with them to add some extra with them. So I could do that out, you know, once we're out of the meeting, I could talk to her during the day and ask that question. I think that all fits into what my intent is, to seek some advice. And let's keep in mind, we don't directly have say over the ARPA commission. So we're not telling the ARPA commission to stop their work. We're just saying to make sure the Board of Finance participates or doesn't participate in a legal way so that we're protecting our responsibility to taxpayers. We're seeking some advice.
Mm-hmm. Because the other thing that's quirky about it is it's not, you know, it's not taxpayer money, essentially. I mean, you could say it is because taxpayers pay federal taxes.
It's not
Wellington taxpayer money. It's from a different source, you know, but our responsibility extends to the spending of other, you know, of other money that comes into the town. I mean, we have education cost sharing and everything else. So, you know, you know, I do think it roughly, at least, I mean, with the understanding of the town, falls under Board of Finance purview in appropriation. I mean, I do understand that. I just want to do whatever we can do to be as svelte about it as possible to figure it out. But I do feel like we need some professional advice.
Yeah, and fast. The one thing too, like Erica and Donna shared or actually it was Kelsey, shared the CCM presentation. There are a lot of people who are thinking a lot about this, just not specifically about how Wellington normally does. There's other towns I'm sure that have our exact situation. And maybe I'm just overthinking. I hope I'm just overthinking it. That would make it a lot easier. but I just want to know for sure before we start appropriating all this money.
It's a lot easier to sort of do your best to figure it out in advance rather than try to clean it up after the fact. If there is a wrinkle, then we'll be in trouble.
Yeah, like what causes me to pause is in the past when we've gotten steep grants, we have to at town meeting vote to accept the grant and then another vote to spend the money. And if the selectmen don't agree with that it doesn't matter. They still have to sign off on it because that was the town's will. And I think this ARPA commission is given, that ordinance gives the ARPA commission that power, except it doesn't actually say it exactly like that. So, or maybe it does in a legal way. So that's, yeah, I would love to have just some advice on that.
Mike, another thing, one point to maybe ask, you know, with legal counsel is what Christina referred to earlier, which is what would the nature of a motion be on Board of Finance? Because we wouldn't be saying recommending call a town meeting to do such and such unless the advice is you have to have a town meeting. You can't really get around that. I mean, we're part of the country that does things completely differently from the rest of the country in terms of appropriations and town meetings. You know, I mean, we're an old-fashioned town.
Just one little, can I?
Yes, go ahead, Jeff.
You know, to Steph's point, or you know, actually Christina, you know, talking about a steep grant, if you treat it as any other funding source where it does go through the same channels, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, everyone thinks this is free money. You don't have to spend it either. So you give the town a chance to decide what they want to spend this on, if they want to spend it at all. The ARPA committee is it functions as a advisory committee.
No, it doesn't though.
Well, part of it is in advisory capacity.
Well,
that's why it's there.
Yeah, but it's a commission, and it was created by a special ordinance. That's the difference. but I can't think of another example that's like it that we've ever dealt with. It's just so unusual. That's my,
yeah, because the way it's set up by the ordinance, they have the power to decide how the money's spent, right? The commission.
Yeah.
That's the intent of the ordinance.
Yeah, that's right. The intent. And it doesn't say the word appropriate, but it does say, oh shoot, I don't have it in front of me. I did have it over here. It says manage the disbursement of funds. And then it talks about the commission shall be the grant administrator and follow current procurement procedure ordinances. So like those are just like some of the words that I highlighted. So yes, but manage the disbursement of funds could mean something different from appropriate. Because the state statute uses the word appropriate quite a bit. So it goes into detail about it. So I don't know.
Right.
Okay, any other discussion on the motion? Okay, I'm gonna do a roll call vote. Jeffrey.
Yes.
Joe.
Yes.
Stephanie.
Yes.
Pete.
Yes.
Christina.
Yes.
And I will vote yes as well.
Mike, do you hear me? This is Jim.
Yes.
Okay, I had to rejoin by cell phone, so I don't know if you need me to vote on this or not.
No, Christina came in, so she automatically takes her seat. But we still love you and want you here.
No, I understand. I disappeared for a few minutes because of technical difficulties and had to rejoin by cell phone, but I'm listening in.
Thank you. Okay. Any other discussion on the ARPA update? No? Okay. Correspondence, you have everything except for the budget we talked about, the request from Stuart. I have seen on my screen that the email came in from Stuart, so I will disperse that to, I'll distribute that to all the members. So that takes care of course. And this email that I just read to you from Christina also I will send out, and that will get you caught up on correspondence. So we are back to present to speak. You guys know the drill. Matt Clark.
Am I unmuted?
Yes.
I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I have the same concerns. I'd echo Selectman Buell's comment. The Board of Finance should maintain its traditional role as the approver of town spending, and the town meeting, I too voiced support for the ARPA committee as an advisory group, but I disapproved of circumventing and going around the Board of Finance and the town meeting for spending ARPA funds. That's particularly important since the ARPA meeting is held during regular business hours, working hours, when the citizens of Wilmington are working. I think you guys have identified the problems. We should avoid these problems. We don't need to do this. We should avoid those potential problems with the approval process by just following a normal appropriation process. Why do we want to get around a town meeting? I mean, it's fast. Okay, how long can it take? It only takes like 2 weeks. I don't know why this, it should be an advisory group and then go through the regular appropriation process. That's my comment.
Thank you. Others present to speak, wave your hand if you're in video or unmute and call out your name. Pete Latinchich.
Peter Latinchich, 97 Trask Road. I want to thank the board for looking carefully and particularly Christina, as I see she spent some time on it, for looking at this ARPA issue carefully. I think I share everyone's feelings that we all left that town meeting on this topic not feeling good about this. Yes, the attorney gave us some legalese that said we could do this if we were somewhat like Stafford, which was unclear to everyone. But I agree with some of the sentiments expressed tonight. Why would we deviate from our normal practices? So I'm glad you're going to seek additional legal counsel, but I'll also suggest an alternate path for the Board of Finance. Even if the attorney comes back and says, well, you can do this because we found a way for you to do this, we can still add our normal processes. Nothing precludes us from doing that. We have a town meeting form of government. That's what the people of Willington are comfortable with. We like the idea of you guys in particular being our financial stewards, and then shuffling into our little cozy town meeting house as we do to approve even a dump truck, let alone $2 million worth of federal funding. I understand that this is government spending money obtained from government. I'm trying to wrap my head around that, and it's difficult. However, it's never wrong to do the right thing. And I have a lot of faith in you folks, and I encourage you to carefully consider what the attorney says, but then do what the townspeople of Willington also would like to see. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Other present to speak? Video, turn on your camera, wave, or if not, unmute and call out your name. Okay. I think that brings us to good and welfare. I will just as usual thank everyone for the hard work and the thought that gets put into all these things. The only way we do it right is if we pay attention to it, about it, and ask questions. And that includes all the members of this group who are serving on other committees, like Christina, representing us on the ARPA committee and getting roped into being chairperson of the ARPA committee. And people who have been involved in other things like contract negotiations and things like that. So I just want to say thanks. Pete Tanaka, I saw you had your hand up.
Yeah, I generally don't like to extend these meetings any longer than we possibly have to. But I spent, as you know, there was some issues getting the attachments to my email, and I apologize for that. So I spent 40 minutes online with tech support today, and I still have no town emails. So I will continue to work on that. However, is there some way where the packets for these can be requested by us and pick up a copy of a hard copy at the town hall or something so that we can make sure we have all this paperwork available to us? Is that something we can look into? I'm not asking for an answer now. I'm just floating that out there.
I can make sure we arrange that if needed, Pete.
All right, thank you.
Okay, anything else for the good of the order? I'll entertain the Pete Tanaka motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Second.
All right. All those in favor say aye and wave goodbye.
Bye.
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 Thank you
Bye,
all.
everyone.